Thank you, Lamine. Appreciate those comments and really for your leadership in this space, for yourself and that of Standard Chartered. Next, I'd like to hand over to Angela, and want to hear a little bit just from a personal perspective, as well as your work in EDF, what this market means to you and the potential that you see that it can have for Africa.
Thank you very much, Ariel, and good afternoon. It's indeed a pleasure to be here as part of this, what I would say, a historical moment in having this conference in my hometown and seeing the great turnout. First of all, EDF is a global nonprofit organization that works at the intersection of policy, science, and economics to address the greatest challenge that's facing us, that's climate change. So we strive to understand the challenge, to define and advocate for solutions that are people-centered, and we do this in partnership with peers across different sectors and across different regions. We work with indigenous peoples, groups, we work with government, we work with corporate players and investors, all of whom we believe are absolutely critical to being able to advance action on climate change. Turning to the subject at hand, and I think I think virtually every African gets to hear through their life that if you don't know your past, you do not know where you're going. And it's the same thing with carbon markets. And while Africa has had a past of limitations in terms of inadequate access to the market, in some cases, some not very good experiences with the kind of projects that have been put forward, the numbers that William put up, there is a story behind each of those numbers. And I think it's important to also look at the other side of the experience that Africa has had. We have projects such as the work KenGen has done. And I don't know how many people know KenGen, but as the power generating utility in this country, they have generated close to 5 million credits for large scale projects, the kind of projects that we believe could be scaled up through things like the Energy Transition Accelerator, through ACME. We have the wind power farms in northern Kenya. We have the concentrated solar power in North Africa. We have some great examples of what good looks like and what it is we need to be replicating and scaling up. Of course, to do this, we then need to think about where do we need to accelerate the action. One relates to capacity. I think a big problem we have here, and I'm really excited that ACME is looking into this issue, is that it's not that we lack capacity on this continent, but much of our capacity is either misplaced because there's no demand for that set of skills, so people go off and do something else, or it's displaced. We go and seek that expertise elsewhere. We need to find a way to tap into that capacity, however little it is, and institutionalize this. And I was very encouraged to hear that there are conversations around working with the African universities to start scaling up and pushing out the expertise that's going to be needed to implement the markets at scale. Now, the carbon market is not just about decarbonization, it's about investment, it's about accountability, it's about inclusion, it's about putting in place a whole range of systems that are part of the heart and soul of climate action. And therefore, I think the effort that's been made through ACME should not be seen as something on the side, as just relating to that thing called carbon markets, but is an integral part of how we're going to transform the societies by strengthening and enhancing those institutional capacities to monitor, to follow, to engage, and to make partners of all the relevant stakeholders, not in a passive way, but as active participants in owning the process. I want to end with just two short points, since I see the clock's running, and I could probably speak all day on this. One relates to price. And I hear quite often when I talk to people about this is that the price for African credits is low. And part of this is, one, because of the type of projects, where they're held, but also by the long-held and persistent perception of risk. And sometimes this is not rightly so. And that's why we need to start telling the stories of these small successes. Because this is what's going to show people that it is possible to accelerate these efforts. So to get to where we want to go, I think we need to move fast to change the narrative for Africa. The best way to do it is to start implementing those projects, to start bringing the beneficiary story, and start crowding in those stakeholders. And As the Environmental Defense Fund, we are ready to continue working with partners across this region and across different sectors. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. And just to so we're out of time for our panel. So I want to thank all of the panelists. I want to thank all of you for listening today. And I will hand it over to William, who will introduce the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful panel. Things are running late today, and we do apologize. Please give a round of applause to what was a very distinguished panel as they resume their seats. Thank you so much, Andrew, Lamine, Angela, and Ariel, for those important points. As we've been talking all along, all these different pieces need to work together in order for carbon markets to develop at the ambition and the scale that we want to. Now, ACME was literally born at COP27. And at COP27, ACME made a number of promises. What you have been hearing throughout this session today is how ACME has been keeping those promises. And when we were launched at COP27, we had a goal that every promise that we made at COP27 would be achieved at COP28. And I'm really glad that you've all had a chance to hear that. And then we have a very important speaker, and I do thank him for his patience and for his humility in waiting, because obviously he's an incredibly busy person. And this is none other than Ambassador, His Excellency, Ambassador Majid, who is the director of COP28. Please give him a round of applause as he approaches the stage and gives us his remarks as we close.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. It's always difficult to close out after so many expert speakers, those who've made such a difference in the carbon markets world, and I hope I'll do my best to keep up with the expertise that we've seen today and the wonderful people who've contributed to this process. Excellencies, colleagues, thank you for the opportunity to contribute to this discussion. The COP28 presidency firmly believes that carbon markets, voluntary carbon markets, are an important, as yet underutilized tool in delivering climate action. With only 7 years remaining to rein in emissions and keep 1.5 within reach, we need every tool at our disposal. Our goal here must be to resolve the issues that are holding us back and from using all the tools in our toolbox. VCMs, which span both the energy transition and climate finance, are an important part of the COP28 action agenda. VCMs can contribute to climate mitigation by disincentivizing actions that would otherwise lead to higher emissions, or by incentivizing those that reduce emissions. Examples of this include reduced deforestation, supporting the transition to more efficient cook stoves, or facilitating the uptake of clean energy technologies. It also includes efforts to boost the removal or sequestration of CO2 through reforestation, incentives to foster the protection and expansion of ecosystems, or through direct air capture. According to the IPCC, VCMs could play a major role in funding the removal of 3 to 4 gigatons of global emissions by 2030. Aside from mitigation, VCMs can also drive important environmental, social, and economic co-benefits. This includes protecting biodiversity, improving soil and water, and boosting jobs and livelihoods for local communities. On the finance side, credible and high-integrity carbon markets can help mobilize flows of cross-border financing, particularly to the Global South. There's also complementarity between VCMs and Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, with clear opportunities to harmonize country and corporate level financing. However, to achieve their potential, we must first reconcile the reality that in their current form, carbon markets face a crisis of confidence. A lack of unified, commonly agreed standard is undermining their integrity and diminishing their value. Our primary objective must be to restore confidence in carbon markets and to ensure that the highest integrity standards are firmly in place and actively implemented. On this point, allow me to recognize the role of the African Carbon Markets Initiative, ACMI, together with the African governments, for the leadership in establishing regulatory environments that are conducive to private investments. And this is only a fraction of what is possible. The carbon market opportunity in Africa is significantly under-realized, with less than 2/3 of Africa's credits coming from only 5 countries, and with almost all projects focused on just 2 sectors, energy and forestry land use. This leaves significant room for growth. If developed with a focus on integrity and credibility, VCMs could boost critical climate finance and support green growth and development. This can help deliver multitudes of climate action across a range of sectors, including adaptation, decarbonization, biodiversity protection, and more. The COP28 presidency welcomes the continuous efforts by ACMI and partners to develop and scale up high-integrity carbon projects. And we support the ambitious goals of the ACMI to raise the quality and integrity of African credits and mobilize up to $6 billion annually by 2030 and $120 billion by 2050. Colleagues, the sheer scope and scale of the climate challenge is such that we need trillions, not billions. And the reality is that none of us can foot such a bill alone. We need every dollar working towards a low-carbon, climate-resilient future that we all aspire to. Voluntary carbon markets are an important piece of this puzzle and have the potential to unlock otherwise untapped resources. We need to work together to scale up high-integrity carbon markets, including more carbon market activation plans at a national level. We need to foster closer collaboration with private sector partners and encourage investment in high-quality transactions, particularly those that prioritize the participation of local communities. And we need to continue to align VCM integrity efforts with those to operationalize Article 6 to ensure synergies of public and private investments. By uniting your expertise, resources, and influence, we can establish, implement, and deploy a framework that ensures integrity, transparency, credibility, and accountability for voluntary carbon markets. By harmonizing efforts, acting in unity, and focusing on integrity, the potential of this tool can be realized. And this will bring us closer to our ultimate goal of delivering transformative progress against the Paris Agreement. Excellencies, colleagues, friends, the COP28 presidency appreciates the efforts of the African Climate Markets Initiative and its partners in furthering this discussion. We look forward to further outcomes to help drive integrity in VCMs, and we look forward to working with each of you to push forward this process and to help bring this unique and potential game-changing resource to fruition. Thank you so much.
I would really like for us to appreciate the remarks of His Excellency Ambassador Majid Al-Suwaidi, not just because he is representing what will be possibly the biggest COP ever, but also for his strong endorsement of the African Carbon Markets Initiative, but most importantly for his humility and patience in waiting for us in what has been a delayed session. Please give him another round of applause and appreciate him. So this brings us to the close of our session. I want to thank all of you for sitting through this. We have heard everything that needs to work, needs to be gotten right in order for carbon markets to work at the scale and ambition that we would like them. I would like to thank all our distinguished panelists, speakers, all those working in the background to make this successful, and all of those who have helped to spread the message of the African Carbon Markets Initiative. I assure you that this is a worthy cause for Africa, and I assure you that this will be successful this time around, Andrew. I heard your remarks loud and clear. This time it will be successful because we've got all the actors in the room and we're all working towards the same goal. Thank you very much for an excellent session, and may you have a pleasant rest of your summit. Thank you.